Hi everyone, Evie here, the Greek goddess of great reading. I'm here in Vietnam and today I will be reviewing Rogue by Julie Kagawa, the second book in her Talon series. Deserter, Traitor, Rogue. Ember Hill left the dragon organization Talon to take her chances with rebel dragon Cobalt and his crew of rogues. But Ember can't forget the sacrifice of a human boy who could have killed her, Garret Xavier Sebastian, a soldier of the dragonslaying Order of St. George, the boy who saved her life from a Talon assassin, knowing that by doing so he'd signed his own death warrant. Determined to save Garrett from execution, Ember must convince Cobalt to help her break into the Order's headquarters. With assassins after them and Ember's own brother helping Talon with the hunt, the rogues find an unexpected ally in Garrett and a new perspective on the underground battle between Talon and St. George. A reckoning is brewing, and the secrets hidden by both sides are shocking and deadly. Soon Ember must decide. Should she retreat to fight another day or start an all-out war? So Rogue was the highly anticipated sequel to Julie Kagawa's Talon. It was critically acclaimed. It was just well received by a lot of reviewers, and Rogue was no different. I'm not sure if I should start with the negatives or the positives, but since people like to complain a lot, I think I'll start with the negatives. Now, there aren't many negatives to this book because I liked it a lot and there weren't a lot of problems that I found with it. There was just one, and I'll kind of get to it in a bit, but I'm going to start with some good things, it seems, to get to that negative thing that I didn't really like that much. So a lot of people were complaining about the love triangle that happens between Garrett, Riley / Cobalt, and Ember. A lot of times people don't like that because they think, oh, why you have to choose between two different boys? You should know who you love, da 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 da. And while I didn't like the love triangle in Twilight, because I really didn't like Bella's character, in this novel it makes a lot more sense just because of Ember's own sort of personality and human side versus her dragon side, as well as the fact that I don't believe that there's just one person for everyone, and maybe, unfortunately, if you do meet two people at the same time that you fall for, that really sucks and it's a really hard decision to make. And I've been there, so I know what she's feeling and I understand, but it's even more difficult for her because of these two very different sides to her. Her human side is called by Garrett and his loyalty and his ideals, and her dragon side is called to Cobalt / Riley because of his own dragon side, and they just kind of call to each other. I'm not quite sure how that attraction works because it's more primal and I don't understand it as well, but somehow they feel a connection as well. It's kind of weird when you read about Ember and her sort of dragon side, because it seems like at some point she has a split personality, because you read it and she's sort of having conversations and arguments with her dragon side, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, oh, Ember's a little crazy. You're just kind of wondering what the... So now let's talk about the two boys that Ember has to decide between. We have Riley and Garrett, and between the two boys, who I personally would pick is Riley, just because Ember is a dragon and realistically she will always want him, and in years when Garrett passes, he won't be there anymore, and it'll suck for her, but Riley will always be there for her as long as he doesn't get himself killed by Talon. Riley will always be there for her, and their connection to each other is a lot more it's natural, it's with nature, it's primal. They are dragon and dragon, and they respond to each other, and it's a bit different from her liking Garrett, and she doesn't know who she really likes between the two right now, so it's all up in the air. But if I were Ember, I would pick Riley. He makes you feel alive, and he's a dragon as well. It just kind of goes together, in my opinion. Now, this is the part of the book I didn't really like. Garrett's not a bad character at all. I did like Garrett in the first book. In this book, though, I found he was kind of way too moody and way too whiny. I get it, he's jealous of Riley and Ember's relationship because it is very strong. At the same time, he needs to kind of realize he is put in a situation in the book where once Ember and Riley save him from St. George, he is kind of not forced, but he decides to stay with them, and so he's constantly surrounded by Ember and Riley and constantly forced to witness their mutual affection and attraction towards each other because it's kind of hard to hide. Of course, he's going to get jealous, but he needs to realize, as you know, a smart person, because he's not an idiot, he's a very smart guy, he needs to realize that maybe he should step back, maybe he should just let her be and not be so, boo-hoo, she likes this guy, she doesn't like me. I don't know what to tell you, Garrett. It's pick a dragon, pick a dragon, or a human. You're even having problems with the fact that she's a dragon sometimes, so I don't know what to tell you. So that's my only qualm, really, was Garrett and his moodiness. I don't like moody boys. But besides that, let's talk about other things, and I'm focusing too much on characters. I heard from a lot of reviewers that this book had a lot of action sequences, and it was a lot more fast-paced. Whoa, wow, that was loud. It was a lot more fast-paced, there's more action sequences, and while that's great and everything, I kind of did prefer the first book, Talon, because it was a lot more calm. There's a much slower progression to the plot development and the characters knowing each other, and I liked the romantic scenes between Garrett and Ember in the sleepy town that they were in. It was very calm and very chill, and I kind of liked that. But obviously the plot had to progress further, so I understand that these action sequences are necessary to further progress the plot. And by no means is it bad at all. I do have a hard time sometimes when because in Rogue, there's a lot of action sequences, so it's mostly description and not a lot of dialogue, and I sort of rely on dialogue to help me understand the story and progress it for me. So I have a hard time sort of picturing things when there's a lot of description about them. And while I did have some issues while reading Rogue, most of the time I was able to create a picture in my head of what was occurring in the action sequences that were developing in my mind. And that was all due to Ms. Kagawa's writing. Even though this is a world that she didn't create necessarily, they end up in Las Vegas at one point and they're on the road in the United States. Even though she didn't create this world, she vividly recreates it for you in your mind, and I was able to, for the most part, actually see what was happening in my mind. I highly recommend that you pick up Rogue at a local bookstore near you. I do also recommend, though, that if you haven't read Talon, you should definitely read it before picking up Rogue, because there's not really a lot of recap as to what happens in the previous book in this sequel, because it just kind of picks up right away after the events at the end of Talon, just a few days later. So I highly recommend that you read both books in order, and that way you'll fully get the experience that you want. The book Soldier, that is the third book in this series, is coming out apparently next year in June, and it's a long wait. There's not a very long wait between Talon and Rogue. I think she had both of them already written or something, but there is a very long wait. But judging by the title, we can kind of guess that Soldier is going to be more about Garrett, just as Rogue was more about Riley/Cobalt and his past and how he left the Talon organization, and how Riley became a rogue and started his own organization to save the dragon hatchlings from Talon's grip. So Soldier will probably be more about Garrett and his past, and we might be able to see how he became a soldier of the Order of St. George and how he came to hate dragons so much that he did decide to kill them for his living. If you guys read Rogue and want to leave your comments below, feel free to do so. If you liked it, what you didn't like, what you did like, if you like Garrett or Riley more for Ember. Hit subscribe if you like the channel. I think it's on that side. Hit subscribe if you like the channel. My Twitter and my website are posted in the bio. And let me know also if you guys want me to do any book reviews that you guys have for me for recommendations. I'm here in Vietnam, and until next time, guys, keep reading.